There's a man buried behind the wall in the liquor room, but he was buried alive.
People's emotional memories stay within the building.
The hair on your neck and your arms will raise up, and you get goosebumps and you hit cold spots.
Chicago, the perfect setting for a ghost story. But what is a ghost? Do ghosts exist only in the realm of imagination, or could they possibly coexist in the world of reality? If we are still experiencing ghosts in the 21st century, we must explore the possibility that ghosts are more than mere legends. There could be several explanations for supernatural occurrences, but which is valid enough to accurately answer the question, what is a ghost?
Around the streets of Chicagoland, there's something for everybody.
Richard has been on a quest for almost 30 years seeking the answer.
Ghosts have been the object of study now for centuries. It's been a heightened interest here in recent years, especially since the 70s with, I suppose, an outgrowth of the psychic age. And yet we still are finding out that the more we discover, the more we find out we don't know, which is probably always the way, but at least we know we're in the right direction. If we can find evidence and realize that this is leading us down a path, at least we know we're in the path. Where the path is going to go, we're still trying to find out, but we're on the right path in studying this kind of material.
When a person passes into the spirit world, they don't make their journey. They get stuck here for one reason or another, and they just wander the earth.
A ghost is actually considered an evil spirit, a demon spirit.
We don't even have a devil.
As a witch, our idea of a ghost really isn't that much different than what a Christian's idea of what a ghost was. Mostly we consider it not the exact spirit of a person that's passed away, but probably it's more analogous to a videotape that's reeled and played over and over again.
Ghost has some kind of little connotation like spooky or scary or frightening or something like that. And ordinarily, I think, at least my perception of it is that I think there are spirits and ghosts in that sense. The Latin is spiritus, but we translated ghost or spirit. So I think there are such things. But on the other hand, I don't think they're always necessarily scary.
We got the hardest evidence that I could ever dream of because there's no explanation for what we got on film. We actually have ectoplasm coming from a door, and it like just floated up to the attic.
A ghost to me is the essence of a person, their soul.
It's probably not something that is within our threshold of awareness. It's above or below our threshold of awareness.
I think it's very important that we keep our minds open to the possibility of there being things that we cannot naturally see and touch.
Our research began with the most well-known ghost story in Chicago. There are several variations to this story, but the traditional tale leaves us with this version. Mary walks along Archer Avenue. On occasion, she is offered a ride by an unsuspecting young man. She happens to be the ghost of a young woman who died in an automobile accident in the 1930s. No one is completely sure of her name, but a simple name of Mary fits her. She looks lovely in her ball gown and is excited to be on her way to her one true love, dancing. Her journey takes her to the Willowbrook Ballroom. In life, she never had the chance to completely fill her dance card, so now she comes back to enjoy the music and dancing that her untimely death would not allow. She lightens up the dance hall with her graceful movements to the music. She leaves her partner with a memory that will last a lifetime. When these men speak of dancing with her, they remember her cold touch. When the music ends, it's time for Mary to leave. The gentleman offers her a ride home. Mary accepts the invitation. This night of dancing has come to an end. The drive leads back to where it began on Archer Avenue. The men describe Mary as anxious when they get closer to the cemetery. When they pass the gates of Resurrection Cemetery, Mary must say goodbye to her partner.
I must leave you now.
She leaves him only with her memory. Mary disappears before his eyes. He stops the car suddenly and frantically looks for her. The young man is shocked and confused by her disappearance. He is frightened, but even more so, he is broken-hearted. He'll carry her memory forever. Mary always makes her way back home to Resurrection Cemetery. This story has been around since the 1930s and is still going strong. The story of Resurrection Mary has been told by many witnesses over the years. Is she merely the product of vivid imaginations? Is she just a story?
Resurrection Mary's story should be given a lot more credence than other ghost stories around Chicago, just for the fact that there are so many good witnesses that are out there. And there are people who, when you interview them, they just have the tiniest facts down.
It was early morning, Sunday of the 23rd of August, 1980, around 1 o'clock, between 1 and 1:30. I looked over to the right through the passenger window and looked at her, and she was wearing a white gown, which was very interestingly embroidered. It was really nice, beautiful gown, very outdated. And she was also holding shoes, which were very strange. They were dancing shoes, it looked like.
For many, it's an urban myth, a legend, a folk tale, and that's enough. But as far as I'm concerned, there's reality. Now she comes back to the clubs, the halls, the parties that she went to when she was alive, only now she's out there on borrowed time. Now she's only out there as long as the music plays.
I believe in her. I believe she is there. That picture I seen with the iron bars with the fingerprints in them. All right, me being I worked with steel and with torches and stuff like that, and I've seen steel get red hot where you can actually bend steel, but I never seen where you could actually leave fingerprints in it. And that would be hard to do, to leave actual fingerprints. I mean, it's steel. You know what I mean? You can't, it's not like clay where you can just squeeze it and you'll have fingerprints. This is steel. And as hard as it is, you could hardly stretch it out, and let alone put fingerprints in it. And that's a real good picture of Resurrection Cemetery with those fingerprints.
She was just an average person who loved to dance.
Any kind of strong bond like that, the bond with this world, will keep them here.
A twirling icon to a past long gone, she still comes back to dance on and on. She's a comfort to those who need memory relived. She's a mentor to those who need their spirits restored. She still lives in the beat of a song. She will go on forever to dance all night long.
Is Mary's story so alive only because of its popularity, or is it possible that her energy really exists because of her love of the dance? Can strong emotions keep us here? What is energy?
I believe everything in the physical world and the non-physical world is energy. So we look at things, like a table and a chair, and we say these are solid objects. But physics has shown us that no, they are not. That there are vast spaces between the molecules, the electrons, the neutrons, that go into forming a chair. And with the right understanding, we probably could put our hand through the chair and bring it back out without being injured. Everything is held together by energy. When we die, scientists have weighed a human body prior to death and after death, and there's very little change that occurs. There is a minute amount of mass that is lost when a person dies.
We are all made of energy. We also emit energy through our emotions. We can't see it with our eyes, but the energy we emit is called an aura. Just because we can't see it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Kirlian photography captures our energy. A Kirlian camera is a special type of camera that allows us to see our aura. It was invented in Russia in 1902, but has only been popular in the United States for the past 15 years. It has also become more accurate in detecting our energy. The different colors show our energy levels at the time the photo was taken. It photographs emotions when we are happy, sad, angry, creative, stressed, or if we are ill. These emotions are energy.
Now, when we die, the part of the aura, it stays around the area. Areas that you really enjoy, it just sort of hangs around there.
Could this energy substance shown in these photos be what our auras look like after we die? Science has no explanation for this. We do know that this cannot be easily explained.
So energy is an interesting subject. I mean, it's a very vast subject, one we know very little about actually at this point in time. But definitely ghosts are energy.
Could this type of energy be what ghosts are made of? This is called ectoplasm. It can be photographed with any still camera.
Ectoplasm was first discovered at Bachelor's Grove back in the mid-1970s. This ghostly residue, this material that shows up on film at haunted spots, and it was constantly changing shape, changing form. It's as if it were coalescing into different images, which is really intriguing. So many believe that this is what the ghost lights and the other shapes and forms that are seen out there are comprised of.
Ectoplasm is not the only phenomenon that occurs at Bachelor's Grove. This location is known to be one of the most haunted places in the world. The setting is eerie. It houses an old cemetery that has not been used in years, but the area seems to still be in use by various entities which express themselves in many forms. A ghostly woman wanders about. A mystery house comes and goes. A caretaker walks the ground guarding the graves. This area has also fallen victim to gross imaginary tales.
Now, a lot of the stories told about Bachelor's Grove are typical folktale type accounts. You've got everything from a blue ghost light to a disappearing house to a phantom groundskeeper that comes out with a lantern and chases people away and things of that nature. But unlike true folktales that have no basis in historic fact, when I've investigated Bachelor's Grove, I've found that there is a grain of truth behind much of this.
There was this guy in all black just walking around all the by the river or that little pond.
The stories I think that we should look into are the phantom caretaker, the guy with the lantern. That's a well-known story.
I took a picture, and then when we got the pictures developed, he wasn't even in the picture at all.
Some of my pictures, you can see with the ectoplasmic energy, you'll see images. And right up to the left-hand side of him, you'll see a face looking down at him.
I first learned about the disappearing house of Bachelor Grove by accident. I was collecting stories from people. I asked them to tell me about their experiences. They'd talk about what happened to them out there. They'd see a mysterious house in the woods at night. They'd want to come back the next day to explore it. It wouldn't be there. They couldn't find it. So for many years now, it's really been a hotbed of activity, and there's no end in sight. I think it's going to be a haunted location, a very haunted spot for years and years to come.
There's definitely some very strong action there. And when I went there once, there was something literally crawling on my hand while I was reaching out to feel another energy.
I started taking pictures. I didn't think they were going to turn out because it was so dark. And then I took one. I kind of thought maybe I got something.
This photograph shows a form in the right-hand corner. It looks like something peeking around a tree. When the negative was examined, it showed a face. Erin thought it was an image of a little girl. She admitted that she came to this conclusion after having an eerie dream the night she took the picture. Turn the negative upside down, and it resembles a baby's face.
The night I got back, I was sleeping in my room, and I heard someone talking and saying, "Did she see it?" And I didn't know if it was my sister or anything, so I was kind of scared, and I just went to bed. And then the next day, I got my pictures developed, and I didn't really see anything that was out of the ordinary until I started looking at the negatives. I don't even know why I opened up the negatives and started looking at them. I just did.
I heard, shh, and I turned around, and I just snapped this picture. An ectoplasmic image of a lady where her hair is flying back, and right down, like on the right side of her, there's a little red image. If you enlarge it, you would see there's a face there. If there's a devil, you can see the yellow eyes, you can see an ear, you can see a chin, you could actually see horns. But in my opinion, that I think that is the devil.
But Bachelor Grove is much more than just, I think, hauntings of a classic sense. Years ago, and you don't hear much about this anymore, I interviewed people who heard mysterious clanking, mechanical type sounds. There's no explanation for that. What do these metallic type sounds mean? There's no factory nearby or anywhere close enough that it could carry on the wind that you could hear.
Our crew picked up a metallic sound that resembled a squeaking door. Does this place have leftover energy? Is that why it's so haunted? Does it have a sad history?
Bachelor's Grove has a lot of unknown graves. No one knows where they came from, the time in which they were there. There's great distances in time when they've been there.
What we're getting is they're stepping from one dimension into the other, and sometimes they don't make that whole transition. Maybe they're just somewhere in between. and we don't see the whole. We just see the like the heat waves.
I really think that the place, because of the Native American connection that would have gone back for many thousands of years, I think it had something going on well before it became a graveyard. Now it's a graveyard, but I think the reasons why that spot are prone to hauntings go far back in time. I think it's all that inhabitation of different peoples there over the centuries. It just had some kind of layer cake effect building up over the years, over the centuries.
When I walk into somebody's home, one of the first things when they tell me they're haunted, I'm thinking, okay, let's find out the history. A significant event, even when I say significant event, it doesn't have to be tragedy. It could be a lost, relative coming to visit them again.
Here we are doing what we believe proves that there is life beyond this life, and it's just incredible. It's history. It might only be 10 years old, or it might be 500 years old. It might be an ancient burial site for Native American Indians or something, but it's history, and it's just fascinating. It's not really what the norm is. And I guess we're kind of abnormal in that way.
And here in Chicago, we have the greatest inland waterways disaster in peacetime in our nation's history, right in the heart of the city, Eastland, where 835 people lost their lives in a matter of minutes.
On July 24th, 1915, Western Electric sponsored a company picnic for their employees. They were to take a boat ride across Lake Michigan for this year's event. The pleasant outing that was planned suddenly turned into a nightmare when the boat capsized at the dock. Witnesses claim to have heard wailing that was akin to banshee cries. Most of the victims were under the age of 35. 835 lives were lost within minutes. Whole families died together. Many of the workers were young women. Some of them drowned because they would not tear off their dresses. Women were not taught to swim because swimming was not for young ladies. This was a Titanic of the Midwest, but without the proper recognition. These were working class people. The energy left behind from this tragic event will remain until an effort is made to truly remember. The memory continues in tales of strange events at the site of the disaster and at places once used as temporary morgues for the Eastland.
My dad was 9 years old, and he often said that he had seen hell that day because he saw the steam, he heard the screaming, he saw the people being pulled out of the water, and many of them were children, so it had a real big effect on it. And until my dad died, he would relate the story with the same sense of awe and panic that a 9-year-old boy would tell about the day that he saw hell. And that's the day that the Eastland went over.
Because the Eastland was not a prestigious group of people, they got little or no recognition for it. I mean, it's all this time later, and a lot of people have never even heard of it.
835 people, their lives snuffed out in their prime as they were having fun, partying, drinking, just having a grand old time. And suddenly, everything shifts from that 180 degrees, and now they're being crushed, they're being pushed below the water line, their lungs are filling up with water, they're dying a horrible death.
What was really bad is when it completely flipped over, some of the people that had fallen off and were trying to swim out were being pushed back down. And then there was like tons of screams and cries and panic.
The way they died and how they so suddenly made that happy time into a time of death and passing to the next world, that I think is why the Eastland is one of the most important ghost stories around, and why it's just chock full of all kinds of possibilities here. Because with, number one, the great number, 835 or more dead, you've got the numbers. And number two, the way in which they died, how they were living up to that point, suddenly it's all gone. Well, that is a perfect setting here for a classic haunted spot.
Hardly you'll see anybody doing investigations at Eastland disaster. But when I go there, I usually get maybe 1 or 2 pictures of something you can't explain. I have a picture actually of a head of a person looking down from the bridge tower.
I'm feeling at least a good 100 souls right here.
The Eastland site of the disaster has long been the scene of haunted reports of people hearing sobbing, moaning sounds, banshee-like wails. They might look down in the water and see what appear to be luminous shapes or forms. Those are not the reflected lights of buildings, it's believed, but actual spirits. And some think they see real people floundering, drowning. They call for help. Fire, police teams get there. No one's there when they arrive at the scene. These things have been reported many, many times over the years.
There's no indication to them that they're gone.
Friends and relatives lined up at the temporary morgues in the heat of July to identify their loved ones. It was highly emotional. How could this energy dissipate? Current owners of the buildings are reluctant to admit that strange events occur in their companies, but their employees will tell you differently.
As a reporter for the Inquirer, I had a call from my editor, and he asked me to get in touch with a woman who worked over here at Harpo Studios, and who had reported some instances of strange activities during her night shift. She worked there as a security guard.
You would always hear things either falling over, you would always see shadows in the corner of your eyes, stuff like that.
We did the normal checking around to try to figure out what might be causing the activities inside the building as much as we could. Knowing that one of the main problems was that Oprah didn't want a reputation for her building as being haunted to start with. And so anyone who had heard these sounds inside was being instructed, according to our source, not to even talk about them, you know.
I've had friends see things now, women walking in period garb that fits the time period, because it was in 1915, yeah. It fit the time period, you know, the long dresses, corsets, the whole deal.
I don't know if it's the fact that the bodies are brought there that makes it so haunted, or the emotional things that happen when people walk down the rows of dead bodies and said, there's little Johnny, and there's little Stashu, and, you know, there's Grandma, there's Grandpa, there's Mama, there's Papa, and walk through there, and the screams that must have rent through that building at that time, the emotions that rippled through that building. Something, of course, transpired, because that building is very, very haunted to this day.
But it was mostly the same sort of thing, mostly things in your peripheral vision, people walking by doorways, and you would go out to check, and no one would have been walking by. Hearing people walking on the roof, even though there was no one there. Hearing the stairs creaking, lights being turned on and off. Sounds like an intercom on your phone switching on and off, even though our phones didn't do that at the time. Normal stories like that, but all across the board.
If anybody from management in that building should see this, you know, they can deny it all they want, but all they have to do is talk to the people that work there, and they'll know that there's something going on. And, you know, don't hide it. I can't see why this is such a publicity nightmare for them. I would think, if anything, it would give them a name for themselves.
After the Eastland disaster took place, and the fact that the dead were shown such disrespect, there was really no official recognition except for maybe their company, Western Electric Company, had services, had some kind of memorial of sorts. But you'd think that the city of Chicago, where the disaster took place, would have cared, would have done something about that. You'd think the state of Illinois would have done something, and eventually they did, but it was 1989, many, many decades later, when a plaque was finally put up. There's no federal recognition to this day for the Eastland disaster. And here we had a loss of life, about 2/3 of what happened on the Titanic. And today, we've got nothing but Titanic talk all the time. You've got movies, you've got songs, but where's Leonardo DiCaprio for the Eastland? And where's the Celine Dion of the Eastland? Where is there something being done for these people? Because they were not rich, because they died without evening gowns and tuxedos and diamonds dripping off their fingers, makes them no less important as far as I'm concerned.
I didn't know about this disaster, and this was supposedly the worst inland boating disaster in the country. And I never heard about it until I happened to, by chance, pick up this book at a book fair. So, you know, maybe a combination, they're trying to get their story out.
In many ways, we've learned over the years and through the teachings that these things are a part of our life. They're a part of our walk.
This old brewery, located in Thornton, Illinois, carries many memories within its walls. The limestone base of the building seems to retain its past. John Behaviorist was the most prominent citizen in Thornton. He erected a brewery and was in business in 1858 with a 10-barrel kettle. In 1876, he built a building that still stands today. The property switched hands many times over the years. Al Capone even played a part in its ownership.
I was contacted by the people at Widow McClary's a few months ago, and they told me they had a haunted bar, restaurant they wanted me to look into. Actually, I get quite a few of those calls every year. I get letters, I get people calling me up, they want me to come out and check on their location, and of course I'm always interested in checking it out to see if it's going to pan out. Sometimes people are looking for just an added edge here to get in customers and so forth. But I was very pleasantly surprised when I found out about here, because not only is there good anecdotal material, in other words, people have personal accounts they can relate, actual witnesses to various events, but better than that, we've actually been able to capture on film orbs to get material on video. So this is much more than just someone claims they had an experience, but we've got the photographic evidence to go along with it. The fact that the building dates back to the 1870s, it was an old brewery, had great associations with gangster figures during the Prohibition days, Guzik and Capone's lieutenants, and great material like that. Not to mention the fact that it just looks like it should be haunted. You just wrap all that together and you've got a very interesting place to study. And so far, we've only scratched the surface, but it looks like it has great potential.
I kind of felt it the very first day we had gotten the keys, because I came here first and I let myself in. And it was 10 o'clock in the morning and I was waiting to meet George here. And I just started looking around and going behind the bar and turning the water on and seeing if different things worked. And I kept getting a funny feeling that someone was coming in the door. You know, I kept turning back around, looking at the door. Nothing, you know. And I'd turn back around again. Every time I turned my back to the door, I kept feeling like somebody was behind me. So I caught myself doing it about 3 times, just, you know, looking over at the door. Nothing there. So I didn't think too much of it. And after about the 4th time it happened, I said, you know what? I don't know why I'm feeling like this, but I'm just going to go sit on the porch. I just was getting funny vibes, and I'd never heard anything about the place at all, you know. Then after we were here for a couple of months, I started hearing different things. I was like, that's why I felt like that first day, because the place had been closed for a couple of months, and nobody had been in here really. So who knows? Maybe everything got stirred up, or that morning I let myself in.
People's emotional memories stay within the building. So especially in the case where someone has died or there's been some sort of abuse, those places seem to carry the most trauma. And the bricks, the flooring, the wood, everything seems to have an imprint of some kind. The energy is here lying dormant, but when people come in and start, say, changing walls around, bringing lots of people in, I think it stirs up whatever energy was in the place to begin with.
I'd be painting, and my wife would call me. I mean, I'd be going along, and my wife would call me, and I'd put down the paintbrush. I'd walk over to wherever she was. I'd go downstairs or wherever, I'd do whatever little chores she had me to do. And I'd come back up. I'd go back over to where I was painting, and the paintbrush would be gone. And I'd sit there for a minute and go, I'd go back downstairs thinking I left the paintbrush down there. And I'd go down there. I'd say, Sharron, where's my paintbrush? She'd go, you didn't bring it down with you. And I'd look around and I'd go back upstairs. And there it'd be sitting there. And, just strange, very strange. The hair on your neck and your arms will raise up, and you get goosebumps and you hit cold spots, stuff like that.
We followed Richard Crowe and psychic Karen Uchima into an underground section of the building. They experienced some unusual phenomena in this cave-like tunnel which holds an artesian well.
Oh my God, that's a form.
What is that?
It's a ghost.
Richard witnessed some sort of form moving on the wall. Our camera picked up these little points of light, which are called orbs. We noticed that if we focused the camera in one place for a while, an orb would eventually appear. Their movements seem purposeful and directed. They are about the size of a quarter. They make their appearance in front of the camera lens, then disappear. Our crew made sure no one was carrying flashlights or any kind of reflective objects. We had to wonder, could these orbs be the DNA of ghosts? We eventually moved on to another area of the tunnel, Karen was joined by her partner, Grant Wylie. Together they witnessed a very unusual form.
Oh my God. Yeah, I can see a face, but it's a mean face.
Right, it's a mean face, but it's also distorted.
It's a mean face, the eyes are slanted and glowing.
The face is distorted in some way. It's like mangled or something. It's not quite human.
The face is elongated.
Well, the whole body's elongated.
It's changing shapes.
Wouldn't you say that the eyes are in the wrong place? Like the facial features are distorted?
Yes, no, I'm actually seeing part of one face and part of another. It's like they're separated. This is a bad place.
Okay, let's go. Like the eyes weren't in the right place. It was a face with eyes, but like the eyes were like, you know how Picasso painting looks, where things aren't in the right place. That's why it was scary, because
like
the eyes were
face and a separation and a half
exactly.
of another face.
Except it was a sphere which appeared to be a head. It's almost as if, like, if you were to describe an alien, except the face was maybe translucent. The eyes weren't in the right place, and the eyes were very big. But the body was strange. It was like a Christmas tree shape, almost like an elongated triangle with what appears to be arms, but they were like dangling down.
Well, my partner George had come in and he had some paperwork to do, and he sat down at the desk and got involved in his paperwork, and 5 minutes later he looked up at the screen, and the camera photographs the bar, and the whole bar was filled with people. So he ran out, the bar was totally empty. Came back here, looked on the screen was totally empty.
Well, this is what I call an active setting. The energy of the place seems to make things active, physically active. There's little flashes of light. There are outlines of things. People tend to hear, see. Sometimes things move around. In this area, it's a very active area. I see visuals of things, and apparently other people have seen visuals of things.
While we were getting ready to interview Grant, we caught an orb floating right next to him.
There's so little that we know about this. They may be some kind of protective thing. You know, when I've done some of these things, the cameras showed that the orbs were following me around, and they may be some kind of creature that protects us from something that we don't understand.
I'm starting to reevaluate my personal prejudice towards orbs, and I think maybe there is such a thing as a orb phenomena at certain haunted places. I mean, I've been big on ghost lights for years, which are a form of orb, I suppose you could say. But for a inside location, never realized it'd be a place to be as good as the buildings here, part of the Widow McClary's complex, the old the brewery from 1875. I've seen the orbs caught on film, and I have no other way of explaining that. I mean, it certainly is not dust. It's not dust bunnies floating around. It's not any kind of sunlight. It's not reflections of light or anything like that. There is something going on.
Those orbs are actually floating around, and they're little gold balls of light, and they're just floating around all over the place. It's the strangest damn thing. The building's 150 years old, 150 some years old. I imagine there's a lot of strange stuff that's going on, certainly around here.
I walked up to the second floor, and one of the first things I noticed was sort of a shadowy figure by one of the doors, and looked to me like it was a man with I want to say a derby-like hat. I felt the guy was sort of thin, and also seemed to be wearing sort of a three-piece suit.
My nephew Cody had an incident here. He went downstairs to my partner and said, "George, there's somebody upstairs there by the pool table." And George said, "There's nobody upstairs." And Cody said, "Yes, there is somebody upstairs." So George went upstairs, and there was nobody there. This kid's 9 years old. He's got no reason to, make this up or anything. He's seen it. I'm sure he's seen it. An old man standing there.
I think Nina felt something kind of weird first. I seen her bending down, and she said to me, "Did you feel that?" And I said, "Yeah." It was like a warm. It just came over us, like somebody was standing next to us.
I felt something, and it went like this down my arm. And I thought I dropped a napkin or a straw. I don't know. I couldn't figure it out. And I was looking down to see what fell. And he goes, "Did you feel that?" And I said, "Yeah." It went on his leg. it was like it had substance, the touch, but there was nothing there, and then Marv felt it on his leg, too. You know, I mean, it was at the same time. I believe in ghosts. I really do. And they don't scare, it's not scary ghosts. It's like, you know, like in the movies. So.
Sometimes there were bartenders in the past come back and serve drinks, or they move cups around. Dishwashers might break a glass or fill up things with water or drink things out of a cup. This is very common.
It seems that every location has its own unique occurrences. We found many forms of unusual phenomena at this old brewery. Glasses breaking in midair, orbs on every floor, full apparitions and poltergeist activity. Some are friendly, some are strange, but there is nothing dull about Widow McCleary's.
That glass just jumped off the bar and off the shelf behind the bar and flew across the bar and broke.
The glass on the back of my just exploded.
I think we're all novices. Nobody has all the answers. What's exciting is with new equipment, we can actually catch things on camera, which has always been sort of a mystery in the past. And the more footage we get, the less likely there are accidents.
I had a couple weird experiences before this, but this is an eye-opener. You know, there's something here.
Often haunted spots are on a stream, next to a stream, a running water connection. We've got the perfect example of that here, best example I've seen anywhere around Chicago.
We experienced the same type of orb activity in the basement of the next location we investigated called Cavallone's. Ironically, this location shares a lot of similarities with Widow McCleary's.
Within a matter of months, I found two places that are very similar for many reasons, two gangster-related sites, Widow McCleary's in Thornton and the Cavallone's West restaurant in Willow Springs. They both have a limestone connection. They're over limestone foundation. There's running water. We have secret tunnels. We have hidden bodies, hidden objects, hidden treasure stories perhaps even. So there's all these different similarities between the two. And they both have similar haunted claims taking place. Orbs, ectoplasm, all kinds of things like that. Not to mention a lot of poltergeist activity.
The building was built in 1920. Al Capone occupied this building for 12 years between 1920 and 1932.
Al Capone is one of the figures around Chicago in Chicago's past that has lent himself to numerous ghost stories, haunted sites, just about every location that has a Capone tie-in, and there are many, whether it be old bars, whether it be where he lived, the Lexington Hotel, whatever, there seems to be a ghost story connected. And a lot of that has to do with his lifestyle, too, because here's a guy that had to rule with an iron fist, who had to take out people who disobeyed him, who had to take out people he couldn't trust, and especially when he did it in a violent way, and these people weren't suspecting that they're going to get their head bludgeoned in the next moment or be shot or killed or even perhaps buried alive. Well, add all this together, and you've got a lot of good sites around Chicagoland, Capone-connected and ghost-connected.
It was like a chop shop, except for replaced the automobiles with people. They got chopped, they got shoved in the tunnels, they got shoved everywhere.
Running water and ghosts go hand in hand. We're almost within eyesight from Cavallone's West to the Illinois-Michigan Canal. The Illinois-Michigan Canal was dug during the 1830s, and it was the major work project of that era. And digging the canal allowed the connection of the Great Lakes waterway system with the Mississippi waterway system.
When they were building the I&M Canal, a lot of people were dying of diseases, so they would just burn the bodies and they would mix them with limestone and use them as landfill. So that's why you get this powdery, dusty, like touching an ashtray, feeling and a touch to it. So this is dirt mixed with limestone mixed with cremation. And that's why, and this is all up and down Willow Springs, up and down the I&M Canal back then.
And of course, during that time, digging that canal, very hard job. Many lives are lost, much tragedy, and a lot of that has been forgotten. It's been really covered up because those who were behind the project didn't want to have to pay off survivors' families and such. And maybe one reason why there seems to be a great ghostly legacy for this area, too.
And the first thing that you notice when you walk in is an outline of a coffin on the floor.
There's an outline of a coffin down there. I mean, what else could I say? Geez, There's a coffin in the basement. There's a man buried behind the wall in the liquor room. Or there was. But he was buried alive.
Cavalones is interesting because every floor, starting at the basement actually, there's stuff that goes on. Going down to the basement where orbs have been caught on film, you actually can see the entrances to tunnels.
This tunnel here, they would store their guns or their liquor or even money or even bodies, okay? And how they made these tunnels was when this building was built, this was built as a basement with regular windows. But then they pushed dirt all the way up to the first floor, and then they tunneled out the dirt to make these tunnels. Here's tunnel number 2. This tunnel here goes all the way under Archer Road and hooks up with a tunnel at Willowbrook Ballroom. This is how they shipped the illegal liquor back and forth back then. Back then, Willowbrook Ballroom was called Old Henry's. Old Henry's. It was the hottest place to be at, as in big bands, dancing girls, and all the gangsters would go over there and have a great time. And the story goes, when the gangsters went over there to have a good time, they would find a girl that they wanted to be with, and if that girl came with a guy and the guy objected, they would bring the guy down here into this tunnel, beat him up, or they would kill him, and they would bury his body out into the woods.
Prohibition had just come in, and dancing, many people back from World War I, a lot of frivolity here in America. We had won a war. We were forgetting about the hard times. Dancing at ballrooms was a big thing. The big band sound was starting to catch on. And the Willowbrook Ballroom, formerly called the O'Henry, originally called the O'Henry, which began just as a beer garden, was established in Willow Springs. Of course, it's connected with the Resurrection Mary stories, but it also was an area where people would come to dance as well as to get drinks. They'd cross the street from the ballroom to the O'Henry 2, some called it, a little roadhouse where they could get their booze and where they could go upstairs for other entertainment. So those who wanted more than just drink could find some companionship for an hour or two. And there were brothels run by the bootleggers at different places around Chicago. The second floor is where the rooms were for the girls, and this would be the brothel area. Traditionally, brothel areas are very, very haunted. There were many different types of gambling that would go on in roadhouses back in those days. The gambling could be traditional gambling, poker, roulette, often done at places where drinking took place.
And what we found so far is an old gambling table with a hidden roulette wheel in it, and it's in mint condition. And we found that in one of the rooms downstairs, just wrapped up.
The roulette wheel reminds us of the memories of its past. The sounds of having fun, the arguments over card games, and the smell of cigar smoke. Forbidden drinks are consumed in mass quantities. The games stop. A new amusement starts. Giggling girls make their play on their prey of the night. The stage is set for intrigue. The bartender seems preoccupied. His thoughts are focused on filling the rest of his evening with the woman who is the object of his desire, Christina. The anticipation of seeing her makes him leave the card game early. He feels disappointed at the sight of his lover with the controlling boyfriend. The eyes of the gangster show strong suspicion that his girl is no longer faithful. Christina gives an excuse to leave. She follows a bartender to a secret rendezvous. Her fate will be sealed, her actions accounted for, later that night.
A bartender was killed here between 1920 and 1930, and how he died was that he was tripped, he fell down the stairs, broke his neck, and landed here. The story goes that one of the girls upstairs, Christina, was one of the gangster's girls, and no one was supposed to touch her. The gangster found out that she was having an affair with the bartender. So he came down here, and he hid underneath the stairs, and he waited for the bartender to come downstairs. When he did, he grabbed his ankle, made him trip and fall, and broke his neck.
He died instantly. The gangster got his revenge. Christina would no longer have the comfort of his friendship and love. He lay there in the silence of the cellar while the gangster took off to pay back for the unfaithfulness of his girlfriend, Christina. The bartender was dead, but the night had not ended for Christina. The gangster entered the room. He never let Christina speak. He beat and killed her. Her body was still like her lover in the cellar. Christina was dead, but her spirit still resides in this place.
She was brought to this out here. She was strangled and brought out here, and this is where she died.
To this day, Christina haunts the second floor, and she walks up and down the hallway.
This is where Christina walks up and down the hall.
There is auditory evidence of Christina's presence. Footsteps are heard upstairs. An attempt was made to see if Christina could be picked up visually. Something was there. Orbs appeared in the living room and in the hallway. Orbs are picked up by the camera. Are these energies compacted presences left behind? Wherever there are manifestations of the paranormal, there always seems to be orbs.
I had a friend move in here on July 5th. Took a hot shower after all the moving and everything. She says she opened up the door, let the steam out, she was washing her face, she looked in the mirror, she saw another girl looking back at her. Bruised face. She says she had a bloody lip and her eyes were like punched, and she was looking at her. Diane has not been back to this building since. Wow. She left her furniture and everything. She was petrified.
That's all upstairs.
Yeah, really? All her stuff is upstairs. She goes, no, you can keep it. She says she's never seen anything like that. She even got a couple white hairs out of it.
We went up to the attic. They have a punching bag up there, and it was just swinging by itself. There's no open windows. There's no drafts whatsoever that could make this heavy 80-pound bag just swing by itself. And when I seen that, I took a picture of it, and in the picture you'll see an orb right at the bottom of the bag.
You know how sometimes, when time just seems to slow down? Just for that instant. I saw it. Just going up the stairs. Just not creeping like a ghost and not running or anything, but just walking like a normal human being walks. Walking up the stairs. But it was just for that instant, and I just knew it. I saw it and I knew it. It was a figure with a coat, with almost like an old gangster coat, something that my grandpa would wear.
One time I was in the basement smoking a cigarette. I was working, and I was just sitting on the cases of beer, and he has a pop cooler that's just sitting there. There's nothing in it, and in the corner of my eye, I thought I saw something, like a person, whatever, shadowy kind of, I don't know what it was. And I kept trying to just look back to make sure, and I'd look and it wouldn't be nothing, but it was about my only really experience and just being creeped out by the whole place, actually.
All I can say is, since we've put this picture up, I feel like I hear a woman whispering over in this area, mostly by the women's bathroom, at night when nobody's in here and I'm closing the bar. I feel like the picture's creepy. I'm not real keen on it, and it kind of scares me, but I think that there's something in the building itself. But it's a good woman's voice. She's not mean, she's not rowdy, she's just saying something or talking to somebody, but you just can't see her. I haven't seen anybody.
The first classic Chicago ghost story I heard about was Resurrection Mary. I began hearing about Resurrection Mary in my high school years and began delving into her story, checking out locations like Resurrection Cemetery, the Willowbrook Ballroom, where she would be going dancing, where she was reported dancing over the years. And interesting how after all these years I've now come full circle, and now I'm right across the street from the Resurrection Mary Ballroom, the Willowbrook, and I'm here at Cavalonis West. So I've just come totally 360 degrees from one ghost story to another, and I still am just a few feet away from my first tale.
Whether you believe in something or not, I don't think anyone should ever close their mind to possibilities. I think once you close your mind to possibilities, you're doomed to make fatal mistakes.
Understanding that there is something beyond this world gives us hope. It says that we exist beyond our physical bodies, and that we don't just close our eyes when we die and go to sleep and never have an awareness of anything for the rest of eternity. And to have the hope that there is something else that exists is freeing.
Some of these pictures I have are incredible. I mean, I like to have somebody try to say or try to claim that there's an explanation for these pictures, because if they do have one, I would like to know.
Most ghosts, when we encounter them, well, it's us invading their space. They were there first, and we might be there to see them or observe them in one way or the other, but they're doing their thing, and we're just impinging upon them. And I think that's another important thing to remember. And when you do have your encounter with a spirit, and statistics show that you will have one, probably in your life, you'll have some kind of experience like that. Always remember to just keep your mouth shut, pay attention, be very observant, take good notes when it's over, and usually the experience is less than a minute in duration, and it's over. Most ghostly encounters are probably about no more than 30 seconds, and then they're gone. But that's enough of 30 seconds to change your life forever and cause you to realize that you just had enough evidence there to certainly open the most closed mind that there is a reality of this nuts and bolts world. There's a reality of the beyond, that ghosts are for real.